Welcome to episode 13 of Using Your Brain for Success, the show that's all about helping you build a better life by using your brain the right way. I'm Liam Naden, and I'm glad you're here. Well, in this episode, I want to talk about the whole topic of positive thinking. And virtually everyone will tell you that if you want to succeed at anything in life, if you want to overcome a problem or a challenge, and if you just want to improve your life in any way, then it's vital that you think positive. And of course, there have been countless books written on the subject. And in fact, it's really the basis of a whole industry, the self-help or self-improvement industry. But today I'm going to give you a different perspective on thinking positive, in which you'll see that positive thinking is really not all that it's cracked up to be. And why, if you use your brain the wrong way, then trying to be positive and think positive is not only not going to help you, it can actually make your problems worse. Now, if you've listened to previous episodes of this show, and especially the third episode in which I talk about my own journey of discovery of how we really get results in our life, why we have success and why we also have problems, you'll know that throughout my life I've really been motivated by one thing, and that's finding the truth about what really works. And this has led me in and out of religion, self-help, self-improvement, spirituality, and really anything I could find and try to see if it was the answer to living life to your highest potential. And I've realized that to find the truth about how life works, you have to be prepared to do one thing, and that is have an open mind when you're presented with a new idea. And then when you are, it's to learn and understand that idea, apply that idea, and then evaluate the results you get. And I've always been prepared to do that. And I know that if you're listening to this podcast, then you must be willing to do that as well. And I congratulate you for that, because it really is the only way you can improve your life situation and live a life that you truly want. But here's the important thing, and that is that once you've understood and applied the new idea, in other words, you've given it a good chance to work, then you really have to be prepared at some point to step back, look at your results and ask yourself, is this really working? Is this idea actually giving me the result I want? Is it solving my problem? Has it improved my life in any measurable way? And can I honestly say that this idea is effective? And for me, that's where I ran into a problem with this whole thing about positive thinking as a strategy, or even just part of a strategy for solving problems and improving your life. Because if I'm really, really honest, for me and virtually everyone I've observed or worked with or helped, then positive thinking didn't actually help. It didn't really contribute in any significant way to the results that I got or to the results that other people were getting. So I'd have to be honest in saying positive thinking doesn't work. Now, I know this is a controversial statement to make, that positive thinking doesn't work. I mean, I know it goes against popular belief, but I think as you listen to this podcast, you'll begin to see why positive thinking doesn't work, and at least not consistently. And of course, it's all to do with how your brain works. All right, so before we get into the reasons why positive thinking doesn't actually work, and why it isn't effective in solving problems and improving your life, and before we look at what to do instead, what I want you to do is just think of something that is causing you to feel stressed, worried, frustrated, or afraid, something in your life right now. In other words, a problem you're facing. And it could be something to do with your marriage or your relationship, or your business, or your career, maybe your finances, or even your health. But whatever it is, focus on the problem and ask yourself, is trying to think positive about this actually doing anything to solve the problem? Is it really making a difference to my results? Or am I simply struggling to find a solution to the problem, and even despite the fact that I'm trying to be optimistic and positive about it? Now, if you really are honest with yourself and really ponder these questions, I think you'll agree that there really isn't any direct relationship between positive thinking and solving a problem. Now, sure, it might make you feel a bit better from time to time, but those feelings, those good feelings, they don't last, do they? And positive thinking might also motivate you to do some things to try and fix the problem. But what you do might not be the right thing. They're not always the right things, are they? And sometimes in our motivation to take action, we do the wrong things, things that we regret later and which only make the problem worse. As an example of this, imagine you're in a situation where you're a woman with problems in your marriage. And you say to yourself, my marriage is going to work. I'm going to get things going well between us again. I'm going to solve our problems. And you say also, I'm going to do something about this right now. And so what you do is you go ahead and you make a dinner reservation at a restaurant for you and your husband without telling them. You're thinking that it would be a nice surprise. But what happens when you do tell them about it, when you say, I booked the restaurant for dinner tonight? What happens is instead of them being happy about it, and instead of them feeling loved and appreciated by you, they get annoyed at you for not telling them and for not checking with them first to see that perhaps they had something else on that night or they wanted to do something else instead. So instead of it helping, it all backfired, and it didn't bring the two of you together. All it actually did, all this positive thinking, the action caused by your positive thinking, it just created more arguments, more resentment, and pushed the two of you further apart. And this is an example of how positive thinking not only doesn't help, but it makes a problem worse. If positive thinking really worked, then all you would need to do to solve a problem would be to put out positive thoughts, and your problems would go away. But as we all know, that just doesn't happen. Well, at least it's never happened to me or anyone I've met. When I or anyone I have observed has really solved a problem in their life, it was because of something else at work, not just trying to think positive. Okay, well, maybe at this point you're a bit skeptical, and maybe you're thinking, hang on, Liam, it does help when I try to think positive. And after all, what should I do instead? Are you saying I should think negative? That's certainly not going to help, so I might as well try to think positive. Well, there's a clue here, and it's in the word I've used a few times, and that word is try. Because that's the problem with positive thinking. It's actually not thinking positively at all. It's really just thinking negatively and trying to cover up your negative thoughts and feelings and trying to force yourself to think and feel positive when you don't at all. So the truth is that maybe if you really did think positive, it would make a difference. But there's a very big difference between trying to think positive and actually thinking positive. And you'll know the difference by how you feel. And it's your feelings, not your thoughts, that are responsible for the results you get in your life, both positive and negative. Because, as I've explained in previous episodes, how you feel is the true indication of how your brain is working, whether it's working the right way, in other words, to solve your problems and create your ideal life, or the wrong way, where it's going to bring you problems and make your existing problems worse. And you know your brain is working the right way when you feel good, because that's when you're in your natural creative state, allowing your brain to provide everything you need to survive and thrive and to be the best you can be. But when you're feeling bad, when you're feeling worried, afraid, stressed or frustrated, you're in your survival state. You're in your fight, flight, freeze state. And unless you're facing an immediate danger, then you're simply using your brain the wrong way. And that's blocking your brain's ability to help you to thrive because it's focusing only on your immediate survival and it's making you feel out of control of your life. And it's just the way your brain works. And you will know this if you've listened to previous episodes of this show. Now think again back to the problem that you're currently facing, the one I referred to earlier. When you're being optimistic, motivated and trying to think positive, let me ask you, are you actually thinking positive about it? Or are you just trying to think positive about it? Does it really make you feel good about the problem when you're doing this positive thinking? For years I did everything I could to try to make positive thinking work. I went to seminars, read books, all of which taught that you get what you think about, and you have to think positive. You have to overcome your fears and just keep telling yourself you're going to win. And in addition to doing all of this, I also practiced positive thinking as much as I could. So I'd recite positive statements, often called affirmations. I'd recite these over and over throughout the day. I'd listen to recordings of hypnotic suggestions that were filled with positive statements. And I did everything I could to cram my mind with positive thoughts. But the thing is, they didn't really help. And as time went on, And the harder I would try, and the more I would try to convince myself that the reason it wasn't working was that I wasn't trying hard enough, then the less it seemed to work at all. And in the meantime, my life just carried on the same, with highs and lows, lots of stress and problems, and never feeling really in control of my life. And it was the same thing I observed in others, including many of the people I met at these seminars, who also seemed as dedicated as I was to finding results. And it was actually only years later when I stopped trying to think positive and instead started to use my brain in a different way that I was actually able to feel positive, and that's when I started to notice significant positive changes in my life. Okay, so let's take a deeper look at what positive thinking is. Not only what we're told it is, but what it really is. And of course, positive thinking is the idea of feeding positive ideas or thoughts to your mind. So it's saying things to yourself such as, I'm going to succeed, I will achieve my goal, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I can see myself with the thing that I want. I know that I can save my marriage or heal my relationship. I know I'm going to be rich. I know I'm going to get the house or the car of my dreams. I can do it. I will do it. And as the theory goes, if you keep telling yourself you will succeed, and if you do it often enough, and if you block out all of your negative thoughts, then you are going to get what you want. So believe it, trust, hope, stay committed, and you will get there. But herein lies the real problem with saying all of these things to yourself and with trying to apply any form of positive thinking. And the problem is, you're not actually thinking positive at all. What you're actually doing is you're trying to force yourself to think positive, but you're really thinking negative. And you're not only thinking negatively, you're reinforcing those negative thoughts all the time. And this is why you actually feel worse rather than better. And the more you repeat this positive statement hiding behind your negative thoughts and feelings, which is what it is, then the more you reinforce this negative. All you're really doing is reinforcing that what you're saying is not true and you don't actually believe it. And the reason for that is because what you think you're saying and what you're actually saying are quite different. Now, when you are using your brain the wrong way, which is, of course, when you're feeling stressed, worried, or afraid because of anything other than an immediate threat to your survival, then you're literally incapable of sending positive messages to your brain, regardless of the words coming out of your mouth. So you think that you're being positive, but you're not. You can't be. It's a physical and biological impossibility. It's simply not how your brain works. So, for instance, if you say to yourself, I will achieve this goal, if you're in a state of stress, what you're actually saying to yourself is, I will achieve this goal, but I'm not sure that I will. I'm worried that I might not. And instead of saying, I will achieve this goal, what you're really saying is, I really hope I achieve this. I really want this. I must have it. I can't be happy without it. If I can just solve this problem, I know that everything will be so well and I'll be so happy. And of course, in this state, what is your brain hearing? I can do it, but I'm not sure that I can. I will succeed, but I'm worried that I won't. I'll do whatever it takes, but I won't do anything that could mean I might fail. I trust in God, but I doubt He will give me what I'm asking for. And what your brain hears is all of the things that come after the word but. So your brain hears what you're saying, which is, I'm not sure that I can. I'm worried that I won't. I won't do anything that could mean I might fail, and I doubt God will give me what I'm asking for. And this, of course, keeps you in a state of negativity, stress, fear, and worry that keeps your brain in survival state and blocks the resources your brain needs to access for you to find the real solution to the problem. Now remember, when you're in a negative emotional state, you're in what we call survival state, and the only solutions to your problems that your brain can bring you are quick fix solutions. These are solutions that make you feel a bit better in the moment, but do nothing to solve your real problem, and in fact usually make the problem worse. Now think back to the example I gave earlier of a woman who thought that booking a surprise dinner at a restaurant for her and her husband would be the way to help them solve their marriage problems. Now for her, or should I say for her brain, in a state of anxiety, fear and worry about her marriage, she thought it was a solution because it made her feel better in the moment. She thought, that's a great idea. and she imagined her and her husband having a lovely meal together. But this was all only a quick fix, because it made her feel better in the moment. But it didn't really solve the problem, because if she was able to step back and see the truth about her marriage situation and about the idea of booking a restaurant for her and her husband, if she could see that more clearly, in other words, if she was using the full resources of her brain rather than having them blocked due to her stress feelings, she would see that it wasn't a good idea, that surprises actually only work when things are going well in a marriage. Surprises don't work well when you're trying to fix the problems in a marriage, and in fact they usually make things worse. Perhaps you've had experience of this. And by the way, if you're interested in the dynamics of relationships and how to solve relationship problems, check out my other podcast, Growing in Love for Life. The thing is that in a negative emotional state, even saying positive things to yourself, or trying to, that in itself is a quick fix, isn't it? It makes you feel a bit better in the moment, maybe gives you some temporary relief from your pain, or perhaps a sense of hope, but that feeling doesn't last for long. And then you're back again to feeling bad, while your problem is as big, if not bigger than ever. Now, there's nothing wrong with thinking positive, but nearly all of what we call positive thinking is not positive thinking at all. Because you can only truly think positive when you're in your natural creative state, which is when you're free from worry, stress, and anxiety. You can never think or feel truly positive when you're in a negative emotional state. And it's only when your brain is operating the right way, when you're in your natural creative state, when you're free from feelings of stress, fear, and worry, that's the only way you can make real progress in solving your problem. All right, well, there's another reason why trying to think positive doesn't work, and why it stops you from really solving your problems and getting the results you really want. And it's this: if you don't truly believe the positive thinking that you're saying to yourself, but if you're trying to convince yourself that it's true, then in everything you do, you're going to be looking for proof that it's working. And that looking for proof is going to get you doing all the wrong things. Now, to understand how this works, let's go back again to the example of the woman who makes the reservation at the restaurant for her and her husband, the surprise dinner. Now, if she was feeling stressed and worried about her relationship and hoping that the dinner would help things without really believing and knowing that it would, how do you think she's going to act? Well, instead of acting in a relaxed, easygoing and happy way, in other words, in a way that's going to make her husband feel good about her, she's going to constantly be on edge. She's going to constantly look for signs that her husband is happy about the decision. In other words, that it's working, that it is bringing them together. And if he says, I don't want to go, or I've got something else on, or you should have checked with me first, she's automatically going to get upset. And maybe they did go out for dinner. If her husband agreed to it, maybe he did. In that situation, she's still going to be on the constant lookout for signs that he's actually enjoying it. So she's going to ask him things like, are you enjoying this? Isn't this fun? Wasn't this a good idea? And if she doesn't get the reaction or the results she wants, in other words, continually positive signs from her husband, then that's going to make her feel stressed and anxious and not much fun to be with. So what I'm saying is that trying to think positive, trying to lie to yourself in the hope that you can somehow trick your brain into believing something that you don't really believe, simply doesn't work when you're in a negative emotional state, because it's not using your brain the right way. Okay, so if thinking positive doesn't work, then what does work? If you don't get results by trying to think positive, how do you get what you want? And what should you do instead? Well, all you actually need to do is start using your brain the right way. You need to focus. Instead of trying to think positive, you need to focus on learning how to approach problems when you're in your natural creative state. In other words, learn to eliminate fear, worry, frustration, and anxiety so that you really can think positive and you really can solve your problems and you really can be in control of your life. You need to do that to unlock the part of your brain that provides you with the creativity, the imagination, and your ability to see the big picture and the truth about any situation. In other words, your full awareness. And this part of your brain will also bring you the right people, the right circumstances and events to give you everything you really need and want. And when you do all of this, your life really will go in a magical direction because you realize the truth that you can never feel good by thinking positive thoughts. You can only think positive thoughts when you feel good. I'll just repeat that. You can never feel good by thinking positive thoughts. You can only think positive thoughts when you feel good. Okay, now you might think this is unrealistic. You might think, how do you do this? How can you really think and feel positive rather than just try to when you're overwhelmed with problems in your life and in your world? Well, the first thing to realize and the first thing you need to know is that it can be done. And in fact, it must be done, because it's the only way that you'll be able to realize the true potential of your life, the life you were born to live, the life that's written into the blueprint of your DNA in every cell of your body. Now, one way is through neurostate rebalancing. With neurostate rebalancing, you replace hope, optimism, and determination, which are all simply expressions of fear. You replace these with a true sense of knowing. You know that you're going to succeed. And when you do that and you give your brain that message, it has no option but to bring that success to you in the easiest and fastest way possible. And you can learn more about neurostate rebalancing in my Neurostate Rebalancing Masterclass program, which you'll find on my website, liamnaden.com. But for now, just bring your attention to the present moment. Just release some of the tension that you've been carrying around your body and in your mind for so long. The stress, the worry, the frustration, the fear, the emotional pain that you've been trying to cover up, escape from, and get rid of by trying to think positive. And instead of all that, just be grateful. Be grateful that you now know that you don't need to fight those negative thoughts anymore. You don't need to hide from them. You now know that trying to fight negativity with determination, hope, and forcing yourself to think positive just doesn't work. It only makes your fears stronger. It only keeps you locked in a mental state where your brain simply can't help you, where all your brain can do is bring you quick fixes that you know don't do anything to really improve your life in the long run. And in fact, these quick fixes usually just add to your problems. And as you let go and accept the present moment, say to yourself, you know, I'm going to eliminate the word trying from my life. I'm going to stop trying to think positive. I'm just going to let go. I'm going to let my brain do the work. I'm going to let the part of my brain that knows what I want and knows how to get it for me, the part of my brain that is programmed for my success in every area of my life, the part of my brain that is beyond my thoughts, I'm going to let that do its job, do the job it was designed to do. And whenever I feel worried or stressed, instead of trying to convince myself to try to believe something that isn't true, I'm going to tell myself what is true. And that is, everything is perfect in my life and in my world right now. There's a reason the way things are the way they are. And although I can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not true. The only reason I can't see the true perfection in everything is because feeling stressed, worried, and afraid has stopped my brain from allowing me to see it. So everything is perfect. I don't need to force anything. All I need to do is let go, have faith and trust. And when I do, I allow the infinite intelligence that creates everything in this universe, including me, to express itself perfectly through me, without stress, without problems, but instead with a life that is truly filled with meaning, purpose, and love. Because that's what I'm here for. Well, that's all for this episode of Using Your Brain for Success. If you really want to become the master of your own life, living in joy and fulfillment rather than with stress and problems, then I really encourage you to learn to use neurostate rebalancing. Neurostate rebalancing is a process which gets your brain working the right way to do its job and bring you everything you really want in your life. And you can enroll in the Neurostate Rebalancing Masterclass program at my website liamnaden.com. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Bye for now.